Welcome everyone to the Wednesday Night Live show, and tonight's show is a special one for us. This is something that I've been trying to put together for some time now. Those of you that know me from Instagram know that I started a thing called Faces of Vaping many years ago on Instagram, and where I had people from our community send me pictures and then a little brief history of when they started smoking, how long they smoked, how many packs they smoked, and what flavor helped them get over the hump. And then I would post those pictures on Instagram, and it was very successful. And I always wanted to do a video format of that. And we're going to do that here tonight. We're going to have some people come on that are in the background. That's right. And they're going to share their vaping journey with us. And first off, I want to say thank you to these people for jumping in and sharing their stories. I know going live is kind of a scary thing. And believe me, I've been doing this a very long time. And Tim knows because I've talked about it. I still get butterflies before every single show. And it takes me about 5 to 10 minutes to kind of relax, cool down a little bit, and get like back to myself. So I appreciate anybody that comes on and goes live and shares their story. It means a lot to us. And hopefully people watching tonight or watching the replay can see how easy it is and how cool we are. We're cool people. We're easygoing.
It's debatable. That is absolutely 100% debatable.
It depends if John has white wine on his desk. If John has white wine on his desk, it could derail. The show could derail. But I get it. It's tough. I go through it myself, like I said, for many years, and I've been doing this, and I do 3 shows a week. And for that first 5-10 minutes, boy, I tell you, it's just nerve-wracking. So I appreciate you guys doing this. I hope it inspires some people out there to give it a try, because we'd love to be able to do this at least every other week on the show and make it a segment and get those stories out there and have people see them and hear the passion in our stories and why we do what we're doing. So before I get into all that, I am going to swing it over to Mr. Where are you, this way? Now that way.
I don't know. The whole way. Yeah,
Tim. That guy,
lose all sense of direction when it's
that dude right there is going to say hello to our lovely viewers that are out there. We're going to get that right because they deserve it. Give it to them, Tim.
Hey everybody, welcome to the wonderful world of Wednesday Night Live and your favorite vaping show on YouTube today. I just want to say hello.
Yeah, it's his favorite YouTube show today.
Today. Tomorrow it'll be something completely different. I don't know, it'll be fucking DIY shit or something. I don't know. So let's say hi to the crowd. We got Shannon. Shannon came in strong with the first. Miss Mallory Gates. How are you, Mallory? Always wonderful to see you here. Marcy Gotts. We got Marcy Gotts in the channel. How you doing, Marcy? Good to see you. Thanks for joining the show. There's that Troll Zample Box. Nesty Vapes. So good to see you. How are you? DIY Down Under calling Matthew Salter an absolute legend.
He's a legend.
Legend of vaping.
I just don't understand it.
Dude, I had to take a second loan out just to get him on the show tonight.
There's a statue of you somewhere on this planet, Matthew. I promise you.
I'm telling you, you're literally the only podcast I come out for anymore.
Yes, see?
I think Tim, the statue of Matthew and Nick is out there somewhere in Orlando.
I guarantee you more people will go visit the statue of Matthew than they'll go see Mount Rushmore at this point. We live in that kind of world now. Anywho, but that's it. I think I got everybody. Yeah, we got 11 watching. So if you're out there and you're not talking, chime in. Pippus Live. What's up, Pippus? Pippus. Pippus is watching us on YouTube. I was like thinking it was a Twitter comment coming in. I'm like, I thought we couldn't see Twitter comments.
Not yet. I think it's possible. Someone swears to me that it's possible to do now. I have not tried it. So if anyone is watching, because we do get quite a few views on the Twitter side. If you're listening and it works, throw it in there because I like to actually see the Twitter logo for once up on the chat.
Yeah, why not? Let's add another logo to the resume. But yeah, so that's everybody. I think I got everybody, and welcome to all the other silent majority out there. Thanks for joining the show, and let's go.
Let's go.
And, let's go.
Let's say hello to that guy down there. Officially. That guy down there. That guy down there. Yeah, me.
The guy who's bronzed in Central Park.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and there's no birds poop on Matthew. They just
Nope.
fly by. They're so frightened by him. They just
They
fly
do.
by.
It slides right off because I got a coating of
Slides.
Teflon.
Matthew's got
You
that
can
special-
grill. You can grill on Matthew's statue. I'm
I
just
prefer that you do.
Yeah, he prefers you grill on his and no turkey. Don't grill any turkey on there.
No.
I'm kidding. Hopefully, we can get our first guest to come on. I'm going to try to hit her up here real quick, and Tim's going to say his hello, and then we'll have Matthew say his hello.
Okay.
Okay. And
We got Tho's chiming in. I'm not seeing some of these comments. Tho, what's up, Tho? And good to see Fuck you. How you doing, brother?
I am testing my microphone. She's coming.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
she's coming.
The anticipation is killing me.
I do have drum roll.
Who could it be behind door number 1? It's a surprise.
Face ID.
Surprise.
Well, son of a bitch.
Who remembers Gomer Pyle? Anybody?
He was a legend. Gomer was a legend. Yeah, he's a legend. He's a mechanic.
John Neighbors? Is it John Neighbors was his real name?
I don't know. Don't date
John
us.
or Bill Neighbors? One of the two. He was kind of weird. Like he was like a he could sing real good. Well, I don't know. My mom would
we weren't
be
ready to afford a house.
Yeah, have that
Built a
acapella
.com
voice.
was life-changing.
I had no idea that you're
What am I hearing?
No, that was me. I
Okay.
apologize.
Cut that out.
Cut that out. Let's say hello to Matthew down there. Matthew, welcome to the show, and thank you for always jumping in and being part of our show. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's my 4th time now.
Yeah.
You're rivaling Nick
Let's give it
Orlando. And unfortunately, the wonderful Allison couldn't be here. She's not feeling well.
That's right.
But you're rivaling Allison's visits now.
And
and
she's
I
a
think
co-host. That's not good.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get her. We gotta send her some soup so she'll feel better.
some New York deli soup.
I don't know. Yeah, is that
Yeah,
what?
it's
Is that
gotta
what
be
it takes
good
anymore? Some cannoli soup. Will that do it?
Ooh, God, that sounds gross.
It does, and I
Cannolis?
probably wouldn't eat it either.
No, I was thinking more like chicken soup or chicken tamale or chicken tortilla. What is that one? I don't know. Chicken and chips.
My camera is struggling to find anything tonight.
It's your face. Your camera
Yeah,
does
I
not
know.
like your face.
My last name is Swift, so
You are Swift.
yeah, the camera's struggling.
So how is your week going, Matthew? What have you been up to? Are you staying out of trouble?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for the most part, this week's definitely had its ups and downs. You know, the FDA is pulling a lot of things left and right, and
Sneaky bastards.
they move 10 steps forward and get slapped 20 steps back by either us or Congress or somebody, and it's been an interesting week in the world of vaping.
It has been. There hasn't been. I was joking with Tim. I said, "Find a good story, Tim," and I said, "I know it's hard."
This week, they're a dime a dozen coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah. You got to dig deep.
I
I didn't find anything, by the way, just so you know.
I didn't either. I looked for you too. I took about 10, 15 minutes. I was like, "There's got to be one good vaping story."
Our good news
there.
is
One.
our good news just showed up, right?
Yeah, our good news is here. She's going to share her positive good story and how vaping has helped her. And let's welcome Dina to the show. Hey, check that out. Fucking John said her name right. Dina to the show. What
Thank you,
the
sir.
hell? Hold on.
Only took him 3 shows, but
I give myself an applause. Yeah, baby. Yeah, that's what I'm
Hats off
talking
to you.
about right there. Dina, welcome to the show, and
Thank you.
we're glad that you took the courage to come on with us. It's something that we've had a hard time doing, and we get it. We get it. Like I said before, it's not easy jumping on and doing something like this live, and even so, a lot of people are even afraid to just video record themselves and then upload it to a website. That seems to be even hard too. So we're glad you're here tonight. We're glad you're going to share your story with us, and I'm going to give you the floor. You got it. Share your story.
Well, thank you. I actually started vaping so that I could quit smoking, but the person I was
just formally engaged to at the time had COPD, and I was kind of coax him into it. It didn't work, unfortunately, but we're not together anymore, so
out with the old, in with the new.
Out with the old, in with the new. Now my house doesn't smell like an ashtray, so wins for me. My car smells good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really have a fun vape story. I logged into into Facebook and met you guys. That's my fun vaping story.
Yeah, how long did you smoke?
Oh, 20 years.
20 years.
I started when I was 15. Yeah.
15. Yeah. Jeez, everybody started so young. That's this crazy thing. All of us started so young. I mean, I stole my first cigarette from a priest, so I don't have much to say there. So, bad boy. And did you smoke? Did you smoke a pack a day, 2 packs a day?
I was pregnant with my son. Like bad things we're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And do you remember that first device you bought?
Oh, the first device I bought was one of those smoke, whatever, the teeny little like TF piece of junk. It lasted for about 6 months until I joined that Facebook group, the Sample Box group, and then you guys showed all those flashy instruments, and I just went on a downward purchasing spiral.
You can blame the guy up on top. He was really good at. I always said he missed his calling. He should have been. He should have been a vape shop owner. Boy, he could sell anything to anyone. No, Tim was really good about helping.
Ice to Eskimos.
Yeah, ice to Eskimos. Catch up to someone wearing a white dress. I don't know, stuff like that. But you brought up the Sample Box family page, and that's where I got my start. I mean, when I did start at vaping, I had no clue. I had no clue on anything. I got my blue, and when I was introduced to a different device, it was great being able to go on there. And I had my Tim, some other guy that really kind of helped us get along and get through. Learning how to use the devices, how to fill them up, how to wick stuff. So it was good that you mentioned the Sample Box family page. And do you remember that first flavor that you started off with?
The first flavor I remember distinctly was an alien flavor, and I thought it was apple pie for the longest time because they never put what the actual flavor is. It's just some fancy name like it's perfume. And it ended up being a strawberry cereal flavor.
When you said alien, I thought you were going to go right to that. What was it? Wasn't there, guys, alien piss? Wasn't there a flavor?
Yes, there was one called Alien, and then they came out with Alien Piss 2 or something like that. They actually had a follow-up.
Version 2.0. Even
new and improved piss. Yep, that's what
new and improved piss. You guys got a question for Dina? You guys want to throw out
yes, I do have a question for Dina. So you started with the smoke smock, whatever, TF mini thing. Were you successful for those 6 months on only that device, or were you a dual user, or did you fall off the wagon and go back to smoking and then have to find yourself jumping back on?
I will say, when I've had a few cocktails, I will try a cigarette, and every time I'm like, I'll be out with one of my friends. Oh, let me get a drag of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always gross.
Yeah.
But were you able to sustain in those 6 months until you joined the group and then found all these other devices? And the reason why I ask is because my first device and John's first device was the blue cigarette, the Cigalike, and we had the whole kit and the whole nine, and they tried to make it interactive and all that. And for me, it just wasn't fulfilling enough. They're just what I needed in comparison to a cigarette or the cigarette experience. Even though the Cigalikes are an MTL, I was bouncing back and forth. Like I started on the blue, and then that didn't work, and I quit, and I went back to smoking, and then I tried the V2, and then that was a little bit better. So that's why I was asking the question: is were you able to just go? Did you accidentally quit when you bought the new device, and you were like 6 months? Boom! I put cigarettes down. I was done.
I'm glad you asked that, because I actually did try that stupid blue cigarette about a year before I switched to vaping, and that lasted maybe 2 or 3 weeks. They taste so bad. I don't understand how that's supposed to be a replacement. At least with vaping, you can pick the flavor.
All right.
But yeah, when once I started vaping, that was once I started getting into flavors, and that was it for me. I didn't get a cigarette anymore.
Yeah, I think that was a tilt for a lot of us because there weren't a lot of choices early on. We had tobaccos, we had maybe a cherry, we had a few that we could pick from, but it just didn't really offer what I thought was an equal experience, and I think that that's key, and a lot more viable now.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the blue works for me, but I did run into the same kind of issue. After I had like 2 beers, I kind of was just like, this isn't doing it for me, this blue. And for me, it was seeing that first device, and it was actually a mech mod, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I saw all the vapor that was coming out of that thing, and I was just like, that looks interesting. And I cleaned it up, and I used it, and that was it. I was done. I started looking for RDAs and digging deeper into it, and I'm glad I did, because I don't know. I do you guys feel like if that's all you had, you would have been successful, Matthew? If you just had the blues, do you think you would have be where you are today?
No, I mean, I started with like the Haas Vapor Pen. It was just a CE4 with a little fidget spinner battery, and within 2 weeks, I was on a box mod.
Yeah,
I mean, it definitely wasn't enough, and I dual used for those 2 weeks until I got something with enough oomph in my lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the blues are just more transitional devices more than anything.
Yeah, it's that spontaneous buy.
Yeah, I don't even really quite recall what the milligram strength was in those things. I feel like they were around 12 to 18.
Yeah, I think it was like 12 or 18.
Yeah, and so I think they were undercutting people quite a bit, because you're used to a cigarette at 24.
Yeah.
Anything lower than that, you were probably craving hard, and those things didn't last that long anyway.
No, that's why we had that little package, man, that little fake plastic cigarette
Whatever.
box.
And then they put a blue light on it, and then they tried to make it like if you got close to another user, like your pack would vibrate and light up, like you were supposed to get excited.
It's
like
a love connection.
You're running around the gas station, like turning people upside down, like shaking them out. Like,
oh my God!
Which one of you smokes blue? I just want to meet my pen pal, my vape pal.
You exchange numbers. Can
we be besties?
You want to try mine?
You'd be the only two at the CloudCon for blue pens. I mean,
yeah, I think they had a feature too, where if you walked near a facility that was selling the cigarettes or the e-cigarettes, the blues, then it would light up too. Like you would be encouraged to just go on a spending spree and buy a bunch of cartridges. I don't know.
It encouraged you to go into the local gas station and have a conversation with the clerk. That's what they did. Yeah. Hey, what flavor? They had their all flavors. We always talk about blues here, and like it's the product that kind of took us by storm. I mean, everybody praised this product forever. I mean, I talk about it was on Phil Donahue. It was everywhere. It was on TV. It was on commercials, and then all of a sudden something happened. Well, we all know what happened. Vaping took off, and big tobacco got scared, and so did pharma. So that's where we're at today. Matthew, do you have any questions for Dina?
Yeah, Dina. Actually, I'm curious. When you decided to make the transition to vaping, how was the support for you doing that? Did you receive any flack from family or coworkers or friends, or were they pretty supportive about it?
I just did it on my own. I didn't have any backup. I had Facebook. That was it. That's all I need.
That community alone.
Those people don't matter.
In a way, it's a good thing, because most of us know, pretty much none of our family ever said anything good about it. They're always like, "Oh, that's just seems to be just as worse as what you were doing before," and so
right.
I remember my mother constantly saying, "You're trading one addiction for another."
Yeah.
Every once in a while, if I get a couple cocktails and my dad, he'll go, "What flavor do you have?"
Yeah.
Go outside.
Yeah.
He doesn't smoke, but he'll just.
Yeah. Well, it's the smell that I think gets a lot of the smokers too, because that's something I get automatically when I'm out there at a bar and outside vaping in front of smokers, and they pick up that first scent, and they're just like, "What is that? What is that? I can't get it. Is that strawberries?" And you go through the flavor profile, and they're like, Ooh, that sounds amazing, you know. But we're at a point in time now where we've learned that we don't hand our mod over to somebody to try it anymore.
I actually did today for the
Did you
first time in a
remove the
long
drip
time.
tip? Did you remove the
No, and the only reason I did it wasn't a trade off. It wasn't anything like that. I
Yeah.
actually took the precaution myself
Yeah.
because I was at work and my cotton and my coils were starting to get a little rotten, and I needed to change them out. And I don't normally have a solid channel for kind of nurturing people close to me to get into vaping, but I'm fortunate enough to have a younger kid who works for me at the office who he does vape now. He's just kind of one of those people where he's got his little I think he has like a Drag X and he's got something else, but he has a sub-ohm tank and he just keeps buying coils. And I told, we were talking today because he happened to come in my office and I was in the process of pulling the cotton and cleaning the coils, and we just started talking about it and all this other stuff. And I kind of turned him into a little bit of a monster today. But it turned out he had some previous experience. But I was talking to him about cost efficiency and stuff like that. And I said, look, I'm not here to criticize what anybody vapes. Right? If you vape a blue or you've got a Saker's tank on a Lost Vape Groose, whatever works for you, Caliburn, yada yada yada. As long as it keeps you away from smoking, then that's what you like and that's what you use. But I was just trying to talk to him about cost efficiency because I was explaining that, the process I was going through. I'm like, bro, these coils in this thing, I won't take these things out for like 6 months. As long as you just do the cleaning and the maintenance on it and all the normal stuff that you have to do. I'm like, let's do some math. And I said, I might have paid like $8 to $10 for this set of coils. I'm like, but figure that out 6 months from now. What am I really spending on that coil when you're turning around and you're having to run out and buy a $15 pack of coils that sometimes have 3, sometimes have 4, sometimes have 5. And you keep refilling. And I said, I get the convenience side of things, but I'm like, we're at a stage where, I think people need to really start seriously thinking about taking that angle because it's just going to become harder to get your hands on certain things over time. And I said, it just seems to make more sense to me. So by the end of the day, this kid had bought a new Vapex 80-watt mod, and he's buying he's still flipping a coin because he wanted a bigger RTA, but he wanted he wanted the Fat Rabbit, the Hell Vape Fat Rabbit. And then he was like, well, I think I'll go ahead and just put it on my Drag X. I'm like, well, can I hold a 28 millimeter RT? Anyway, the whole day went on. So he's either buying the Fat Rabbit Solo or the Fat Rabbit Dual, and he already ordered the mod and all that other stuff, and I don't know what coils he's going to get, but apparently he already has some experience. So it was kind of fun to actually sort of be able to have that avenue and kind of nurture people that way. So, but he got energized by the whole conversation, and I thought that was cool. As far as my family goes, they hated it when I smoked. They were always up my ass when I smoked. And then when I started vaping, they were unsure of exactly what it was. And then the conversation didn't even really happen until the news kind of got lit up with all the Valley scare stuff and the constant reports night after night about how bad it is. And I had to have that long conversation with both my parents. I said, look, trust me. I was like, I put a lot of research and time and effort into making sure what I'm doing.
Your dad looked at you and said, "Timmy, we've been trusting you for fucking 50 years, buddy."
Well, I think what they really wanted to hear is that I had confidence in the conversation, and that ultimately I knew what I was talking about, and I knew that what I was doing was far better for me than any cigarette could ever be for me. And I think that was peace enough.
Well, here's something, because I had the same experience you did. I kind of wonder, is it you guys think that it's our parents, of course, Tim and our parents are in their 80s compared to maybe some of your guys' parents or younger generations that are out there that are, parents in their late 40s, early 50s. And you think it's a different type of response, or you think it's worse with this newer, younger generation of parents than it would be having that conversation with our 83-year-old mother and fathers?
That's hard to say. I don't know. My dad's 65 and he's very, very old school.
Oh, he's very, very.
But he's very, very old school. But the same for me when those, all the popcorn lung scares came out and all that. My parents were down my throat about it. But now that's ancient history.
Yeah, I always wondered that. I always wondered if it was a different type of conversation that the 83-year-old mom and dad had with the, the kid having it with the 50-year-old parent. Here's our fun question for you. How many devices does Dina have?
Oh, boy. That I use on a regular basis, just one.
No.
In
Definitely
totality.
a graveyard.
Don't try to hide the number. We want to know how many you own in total. Not
How many are shelf queens at this point?
How many? It's a big shelf. Gee, there's got to be like 12. Like 12. That's not that many.
That's not bad.
That's fair number. Fair number.
Yeah.
It's not unusual to us.
Not at all.
I started my own shop. No, I'm kidding.
Right. I'm working.
His shop is called Drawers.
Yes, drawers. Yeah, drawers. No, that's the thing. And have you dabbled in RDAs? Are you still?
I did. I'm just more a convenience person. I do my little coils. They last for freaking ever when you get the mesh ones. I just go to the store, buy like $100 in coils. Sure, it'll last me like 8 months.
Yeah. I mean, I hate mesh coils only because I think it's taken away the art of coil building.
I understand that.
What do you think, Matt?
Klutz.
It's made it it's simplified it. It's way too simple.
It is, but I love mesh coils. I'm running a mesh coil in this Falcon, but nothing beats a well-made fuse Clapton or alien coil in an RDA at a proper wattage. The flavor is just unparalleled.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's exactly the conversation that I had with Archie today about that. And I said, because he started talking about the Kylan device, and I'm like, are you looking at the M or are you looking at the V2 or anything? And he said, no, the V2. And I said, okay, good. I said, yeah, just get yourself a solid set of Claptons or aliens, man. And I said, you'll be just fine.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't want to go down the mesh route, not because it's not enjoyable and other people haven't had success with it, but I've heard a lot of stories about dry hits on a mesh RTA, and I'm like, I don't think I'd want to experience that.
I tried one once. That sucker lit on fire. If you don't have the cotton just right, nope.
No thanks. I don't need it. I don't need a spontaneously combusting device. Thanks very much.
Yeah. And some of us are the type that take a very big hit and really, really take a good hit. And if you're one of those guys and you inhale that nastiness, you could be coughing your lungs out for about 15, 20 minutes after getting that taste in your mouth.
Hi, puppy. You got a puppy behind you.
Yeah.
I sure do.
Puppy, how long have you been vaping, puppy? No, I'm kidding. What is your preferred flavor?
The baby.
Dina, what is Dina's preferred flavor?
I like sweet things. I like desserts and fruity flavors. Cereals are. I have a soft spot for a Fruity Pebbles flavor.
Yeah. I still find that well, Matthew, you know better than all of us because you're in the industry, but isn't it weird how certain sections of the country are just fruits, some are then there's just desserts, and then isn't that just so weird?
See, I thought it was too. I mean, so I used to live in New York and I'd vacation to Florida. In New York, desserts are very popular because it's cold most of the time. Yeah. Whenever I came to Florida, the shops would be pushing fruits or drink flavors almost exclusively because it's really hot outside. You want something light. You want something refreshing. And then you get the Midwest, and the Midwest just vapes some of the weirdest shit known to man. I mean, I've gotten bacon vape out of the Midwest.
those Wisconsin people. Wisconsinites.
Like, there was a maple bacon that was just fantastic that came out of the Midwest.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, wait a minute. Time out. That actually sounds
that I might try. I would actually like to try that once.
See,
I
I'm waiting
have
for the corned
to.
beef and cabbage vape. That hasn't been.
Oh, well, of
Still
course,
waiting
yeah.
for that.
You don't have this. Y'all don't know what you've had until you've had sauerkraut vape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome, Green Thumb. We're glad you made it today. Yeah, I always found that weird because it seemed like anytime I was talking to somebody on the East Coast, it was always croissants and cakes and cheesecakes, cannolis, flavors like that. And then I'm like, hey, you've ever tried this? This mango? Oh God, that sounds disgusting. No, I've never tried. I'm like, okay,
But maybe that's just demographical, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like if you grow up in the North and you're in New York City, you're probably more inclined to be going down like sweets and tarts and confections and stuff like it would just seem that way to me. Whereas you get down, like Matthew said, into the South, and people are a little bit more about, fizzies and fuzzies and fruities and this, that, and all. So I got to imagine it is entirely demographical. I mean, for me, I started out with dessert vapes.
Yeah.
I don't think it had anything to do with where I was living at the time or Virginia being some, sweets and candies type place, but for me the struggle is that dessert vapes all started to become very one dimensional. Like no matter what I bought, whether it was a Cinnabon or a cereal vape or some
Donut.
cheesecake donut thing, I just was not getting any differential in the flavors. They all became effectively bland, and so I switched over to fruits, and so now desserts are all but a once in a while thing, really.
Okay. Yep. Any other questions for Dina?
I'm
You
trying to
guys?
think.
Are you
All
trying
right,
to
so
find
we
out?
got to ask Dina the hardest question in the
Oh,
world.
here we go.
All right, so Dina, you have to you have to be completely objective to this question. So the pressure is on.
Should I be worried?
You hit the symbol, hit the rim shot.
Ding.
Thank you. Okay.
There it is.
All right. So here's the question. So you're sitting in front of Congress and the FDA, right? And you are the spokesperson for the vaping world at large. And they said, "Okay, Dina, here's the deal. You have to concede one thing about vaping, meaning you have to be willing to give it up, and this isn't like, I mean, it can be a law, it can be a component of vaping, it can be a segment of vaping, but they said you have to concede one thing about vaping, and if you give that one thing up, then you're going to save vaping for the rest of everybody else. We'll let you keep the rest, but there's one thing that you got to give up." And say I could continue on with vaping, and don't take it from. I have to kind of throw this out there. Don't take it from a tobacco harm reduction advocate stance, because in that world nothing can be conceded.
Right.
But in this particular question and answer period, it's one thing about vaping and that you could say, if you got rid of that, I could live without that part, and as long as we get everything else. What would be the one thing that you would be willing to concede?
Gee, did I warn you I was hungover when I got onto this podcast? That's a hard question.
No, I can. Yeah, we can tell you've already done your nails and washed your hair. So for example, I'll give you an example. You could say something to the effect of like, they could get rid of like all the 50 milligram Nick salts, and then we get to keep
Sure.
everything else.
I mean, if there were one thing that I would complain about with vaping, it's all the waste. I'm really tired of seeing all these disposable vapes just floating around in parking lots. It's crap. It's bad for the environment. If we could do something to make vape bottles disposable, recyclable, if they're not already. I don't know what the recycling laws are on that type of plastic.
Pretty close.
That's a good answer. Make it all biodegradable.
Yes, that would be my one thing.
Dolphin friendly. And
So
sea
no more environmentally
Save
dangerous.
the turtles.
No more no landfill filling vapes anymore. Yeah. Okay. Good answer. I'll take it.
Dina, I'm sorry. Almost,
There he goes again.
almost fucked it up. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. If you'd like to stay on and with the rest of us for the rest of the podcast, you're more than welcome to. But if you need to go, we understand it's late there for you.
It is a little late here. It's past my old people bedtime, but it was great to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for
All right,
joining
Dina,
us. We
take care. Have a
appreciate
good night.
Have a good night.
Yeah. And Travis is joining us, and Travis is going to share his story with us. Everybody, Tim, Matthew, I don't know if anybody, Matthew, you know Travis or?
I have not met Travis personally, no, so I will take this first meeting as a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good way. So that's can't complain with that one. How are you guys?
Good. How are you, man?
Hanging in there. You know,
Good.
It's 8:30 in Texas, starting to cool off a little bit. So,
really? What is it like?
Yeah.
101, 101 right now? Is that your cooling?
it's 103.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely. That's
it's not
I
too
can
bad.
feel the cool breeze already.
100 here. Yeah, I'm in California, so I'm right there in Modesto, so in the Central Valley. So we get as hot. Well, we don't get quite as hot as you guys do there, but we get hot.
Yeah.
It's
At
that
least-
dry heat they call it.
It is. It's the beef jerky heat. So you walk out, you just turn into beef jerky. You really don't sweat. So you just kind of suck in like a grape. So, but yeah, man. So Allie asked me to come and jump on, and I did. And all I really, and knowing right now is to share my story on vaping and how I got into it, and ultimately, I guess where all of us know where we are now, Matthew especially, and you guys as consumers. So, with myself, I in another life and in a different profession, very, very stressful, high stress environment. Was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, just had 2 kids, and popped into a vape shop and got the old school, revolver style wick with the honeydew tobacco. You know what I mean?
Woo.
And it was a life changer at that point. And it wasn't nothing but like 3-4 weeks, and I was like, this doesn't really, this is not really tasting the same as it once did. And whenever I first went into the shop and they mixed it up for me on spot, anyway, we lead down to this point, and in 2013, I jumped in hard and started making premium juice, and only had 5 products at the time. And here we are in 2022, fighting the fight, trying to stay alive and doing what we do and staying with what we love. So, and the success is there, man. It's like, the same thing that all I can tell people is my personal experience is, the moment that I quit smoking, my life began improving. The moment I vaped, my life began improving. And you have to look for those improvements. But if your lifestyle requires you to get a good night's sleep and physically exert yourself every day when you're not smoking, you start realizing the benefits right away. And the fact that you can keep sucking down and chucking clouds and still be able to do those things. And you're far more healthy overall with a good homeostasis as compared to other people that, are still casually smoking or smoking in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my story. And, of course, having family members going through this process. One that's really close to me is my uncle just recently passed away, and I actually got him off of cigarettes with vaping successfully. And then he developed cancer, and he just passed away this last Friday from that. But vaped, didn't go back to cigarettes, nothing, and just stuck with vaping. So it works. And if we can get it into the hands of the people that need it right away, no matter what form it comes in, it's the best thing that we can do is just to transition and reduce that harm for everyone,
Sure.
And give the option at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be an adult, make your own decision,
Right.
Yeah.
So that would
It would be
great.
nice. Wouldn't that be nice that I can
Absolutely.
go, I can go into Starbucks and get any fucking flavor under the sun. I can walk into any bar and order a fruity drink and enjoy it. But God forbid if I get a cheesecake vape, man, that's just, or some mango. Whew.
Yeah, you can hop in your car and not wear your seatbelt and go 100 miles an hour. And if you kill yourself, then it's a sad story,
Yeah.
But let me control what flavors you vape. So, and what you vape in general. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what it's leading to.
We all know that flavors are a big part of our success, and the reason why Matthew had to go pick up his daughter, so he had to jump off
Hard stop at 40 minutes.
band camp. He's a band.
He was on the money too. It was like 40 minutes and 12
Hey,
seconds. Gone.
Tim, that's what happens when you're a dad. There is no I'll be there in a minute. It's if you tell them you're going to be there at 5:45, you're going to be there at 5:45.
That's true.
Oh yeah, dude. I have a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, both daughters, and yeah, trust me,
especially daughters.
Yeah, Daddy Uber. I'm Uber everywhere. So,
Daddy Uber, that's great.
No tip, no 5 stars, just demand.
No.
You know,
Can you imagine the daddy rating? They had a dad rating on their phone.
Yeah.
That would be fucking hilarious.
That would be.
Dad,
that's probably coming, John. It's going to happen.
Most likely. So
Dad, you went from a 4-star to a 3-star dad because you didn't stop and get Taco Bell. So,
yeah, no, you didn't. You didn't stop and get boba. There we go. That's really what it is. So I tell you what, man, that's another thing. You know, they don't like Uber Eats and all this stuff. My kids, I'm not joking you. By the time I'm coming home, I'm not like I've seen, you know, an Uber Eats delivery of boba tea and Starbucks, at least on the security camera 3 times a day during the summer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and yeah. So
wait till they start driving, because like when my oldest got his license, he was, just like us. We were all excited getting our first license, and driving, and that first week and a half. I'm going to say 2 weeks. It was always like, "Hey, Dad, I'm going out. You need something?" He was just, excited to go and drive the car and bring me something back. That lasted maybe 2 weeks, and then he was just like, "Yeah, I'm out, Dad. All right, man.
Yeah.
No, hey, Dad, do you want me to stop and get this?" Or, "Hey, Dad, do you want me to pick up my brother?" Nope. It was just,
man.
I'm out.
Just gone. Yep. Yeah, I'm worried about that, man. So 15-year-old, both of them extremely smart, extremely sharp. But man, putting them behind the wheel of a car and setting them loose, I just don't know if I have that one just yet. So I don't think I have
some
that
detachment syndrome shit right there.
Man.
Timmy, do you got a question for Trevor?
Yeah, so I do have a question. So going back to the beginning of the story, so you were in a stressful job, smoking 2 packs a day, 2 kids. What was your primary motivation for finally walking into that vape shop and saying, "I'm going to go get this crappy little device and try to put cigarettes down and put them behind me"? What was the driving motivation for that?
Man, at the time, to be real honest with you, it wasn't necessarily that I understood that it was safer for me, because at the time it was kind of the grage, the fringe water, the fringe of things, the gray water. We really can't say, we can say everything, but there's no proof behind it.
Right.
So for myself, to be very honest with you, it was my kids. It was my smell. When they're little like that, and they're 3 and 4 and 5 years old, man, you don't want to suck down a cigarette and then throw it out and then walk into daycare and pick them up and hug them and kiss them whenever you smell this way. So that was my number one thing, is kind of reducing the just the exposure to them, because I know what that secondhand does, and even though they're, didn't smoke in the house, didn't smoke in the car, any of this other stuff, it's still that smell, especially, and as a smoker and as a vapor, even today, I just have a really sensitive smell. And it's one of those things, like when you don't have a cigarette for a while and then you go and you suck down 3 or 4 of them real quick, you can kind of notice that, and you smell that on other people. And then you automatically think to yourself, "Dang, man, that's how I smell. That's what my kids smell." And so that was pretty the main thing. I guess you could say it was for my kids, and mainly just to improve, their environment overall.
Right.
And Texas has been pretty, a lot of folks like to think Texas is kind of laid back, but they're the ones that kind of started leading the way, that, if there's actually a law. If you're smoking in the car with your children, they can pull you over and ticket you. So, that was one of those main determining things for me, is just anything that I can do to improve that for my kids. And overall it does, because I think we all understand, anytime you have a smoker in the house, or you go to a smoker's house that used to smoke and no longer does, or still smokes, you can smell it a mile away. And
that's so very true. I mean, even like most recently, we had before he quit, but he was a vapor, which was ironic to me because, like, we're standing around and I always wondered why he was smoking. And I don't know, I didn't ask much about his life or anything, but it is so prominent. Like when you're standing somewhere and you start smelling that cigarette, like in your vicinity, it's almost like this alien flavor. It's like you start having these kind of like things that flash before your eyes. Like, man, I can't believe that's what I did for 20 something years, and smell and that's what it smelled like. It really is a bit of an epiphany, when you haven't smelled it in a long time, and then all of a sudden you finally do. It's just kind of, it's strange to me. It's like, I don't know, it just kind of it doesn't freak me out, but I mean, but it's also sort of like a sense of like relief, you kind of have this deep breath moment and you're like, man, I'm kind of happy I finally put all that behind me for the sake of everyone involved, the friends around me, the people that I spend my time with. I mean, I hang around a lot of guys. Like, I mean, there is a guy in the band that smokes still, and I don't pressure them. I mean, I was a smoker. I'd be the biggest hypocrite in the world to criticize anybody who still chooses to smoke. That's their life. But I'm around a bunch of guys who don't, and they don't care for it, but they don't say shit about my vaping. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's kind of like a deep breath moment. It's like my parents are happier that I'm not smoking. I don't get the lectures over the phone anymore. You still smoking and all that stuff,
Yeah.
And you don't get the general criticisms from people. I don't know. I mean, luckily for me, I've not been exposed to a lot of people in a public arena who have seen me vaping. And I'm just talking about strangers in general. I'm not talking about friends coming up and making some snarky comment, like calling it my lightsaber or something like that. Those you can just kind of brush off because they just don't, to them it's this weird looking device and stuff. But
Yeah, you look like a robot socking a dick. That's the one.
something. There's always something. And I did one time get an errant comment from somebody that I knew, and he's a smoker. And he walked up to me and he points at me in my face. And he's like, that shit'll rot your teeth. Like I'm just like painting my teeth with straight sugar or something.
Exactly.
And I'm not inclined to get into those arguments at that point in time. This was out front of a bar, and it's just not a worthy conversation. Like if he wants to have a sidebar conversation about it and talk about it seriously, I just kind of laughed off what he had to say. But I've just been real fortunate. But again, what is abandoned is the conversations that people typically have with you because you're a smoker. Like you shouldn't smoke. It's like I know. Everybody and their freaking mother has told me that I shouldn't be smoking. I'm well aware that it's not good for me. But yeah, it is like a deep breath moment when you finally abandon it, and then you smell it somewhere else, and you're like.
Well, it's funny that we went all those years not smelling it on ourselves. I always found that funny is that we didn't smell it. We didn't smell it at all. It's like the campfire. You don't smell the campfire on you, but everybody around you knows you went camping. They're like, dude, fuck, man, you smell like a campfire. Yeah. And that always drove me because I was the same way. I had really nice cars, and I didn't want to smoke in my cars.
Yeah.
So I would do the best I can on that 45-minute drive to work not to have a cigarette. So because I didn't want my kids sitting in my truck and smelling that in the seats and the carpet and the headliner. So I was always trying my hardest, but they would get in and they're like, dude, Dad, this car stinks like cigarettes, and never used the ashtray, never smoked in there, but it was just me. It was just, I was just ball of fucking, what was that from Charlie Brown? The little kid with the dirt clod and the dirt thing would follow him. That was us.
His name. Yeah.
Pigpen.
Yeah.
That was us. So let's have a fun question for you, Travis. Are you ready for this one? How many devices does Travis have?
3.
No. Total?
Yeah, 3 total.
Wow. Damn, hold on. You get this.
How did you manage to avoid the onslaught of dumping your credit card on device after device after device?
Oh man, so for me, I'm pretty much a creature of habit, and so I basically go in and I just get I support local shops, of course, friends here local, so I go into their shops and buy, 3 of the same device, different colors, because the main thing for myself is I like to have certain flavors and certain profiles depending on my stress level or what I'm doing or dealing with. So yeah, technically 4 if you include, medicating devices. So
Nice. Wow. I'm
yeah.
blown away. I am absolutely blown away.
Yeah. So yeah, dude, I like flavor
now that you know
change.
Tim, though, be careful because he will sell you on something.
All
I
right.
try.
I'll try. I'll try.
I don't work for anybody, so there's nothing. There's
Yeah,
nothing.
he doesn't work for anybody.
I'm not getting kickbacks or anything. So.
Consumer advice is great.
Exactly.
Yeah, he just has this really excellent vocabulary that just makes you want to go and buy something because he just made it sound so amazing. You know what I mean? So you just got to be careful with him.
Promise
All
I
right.
won't sell anything tonight. I promise.
And have you dabbled in RDAs and RTAs, or are you basically still using coils?
Man, I did, I was back in it in the builds and all that good stuff. And it's just for me, I'm fast. I'm going 1,000 miles a minute. I don't have time to rebuild. I don't have time to buy coils or go and buy, this stuff. And I don't have tiny fingers. I have fat sausage fingers, so it just really doesn't work for me. And, but no, I rock, I go with, just oh dang, man, the new tank here that comes, the TPP tank with the replacement coils, and just throw those in 0.2s and rock it out, man, and set my juice, my voltages for each one of the juices that I vape and run with it.
So you're someone that actually uses the presets on a mod, right?
Yeah. I mean, as a juice maker, in the way that that our stuff works is you're going to get different profiles at different wattages, different levels, and so that's the areas that I focus on. So I really appreciate that kind of flexibility. So yeah.
You could tell everybody your line. I mean, you're here. Tell her.
Yeah.
Can you do that? Yeah, go.
I mean,
go
yeah,
for
it's pretty. It's Vape VTA. We're Vapor Technologies Austin. So vapevta.com. Go check it out. Go give it a whirl. See if something you like. Next time we come on, we can, or if you in the future throw up a discount code for you guys. So
nice. That'd
we
be
just
awesome.
we just have a a pretty straightforward line, and it's great. And like I said, 2013 we released 5, and here we are, and I think we have 17 so total. So and that's just because people suggestions and of course the years in line. So they're good mixes, they're good ones, and the same 5 that we released in 2013 are still the same 5 that are part of the lineup today. So,
nice.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear your PMTA process.
Yeah, man. Which one?
Oh,
for
no.
freebase or synthetic?
How's the process been for you? Has it been hair pulling?
Honestly, at the beginning it was, being the president of the USVA, communicating all of this stuff, suing the FDA, understanding what they're capable of, understanding what the deeming rule says, and understanding that the discretion that they have is so broad that it's really it's at a point now to where, it's almost unpassable if they just don't like you. Like they'll just, if I just don't like it, so rejected, and then you have to go through the appeal process. So for myself, again, my freebase tobacco or freebase nicotine, tobacco derived nicotine PMTA, it's still in process. We're still good. We've moved on into the secondary phases. So we went through the process, submitted for our synthetic as well. And overall, as long as you have the information correct and you follow the proper processes, and a lot of that out there is through trial and error. And part of the USVA and what we do is we share that information and we spread it around to any of our members that have this, so that way we're following and letting folks know there is a pathway here. If you're unclear of what to do, reach out. We're going to help you follow this. We're going to kind of guide you through it in general. And then of course you have the luxury of having Jared with Navarre Law And if you do get an MDO, he's well versed on it. He knows exactly what's going on, and he can engage for our members back and forth with letters. Because the one thing I can be honest with you about and tell you just from being here as the USVA president, and what I've learned is the FDA, they won't admit this, but they will mislead you. They will drag you down a pathway to sign something and not give you a copy. And a lot of people, the fear of everything that comes along with the FDA, they just comply. And that is one of the biggest things that we've caught throughout this entire process, through the PMTAs, through the warning letters, through the deficiency letters, going through all of this, is that when you don't have an attorney that can read the legalese and explain to you what you need to do, and you try and respond to the FDA, you lose. So number one thing I can tell anybody that's going through the process is any engagement and any communication that you have with the FDA, you need to have your attorney doing it or on the phone while you're doing it. So, because again, these are unelected bureaucrats that have authority through a role, a position that they hold that could be for a lifetime. And these are the people that are effectively enforcing this policy that's being, broad as broad can be, and forcing us in the private sector to jump through hoops, and they don't even understand the process. So, and through the process of the process, we get into the court and we have these MDOs where we're arguing in oral appeals and oral arguments. And, we're finding out through the 5th Circuit, the 11th, the 4th, the 9th, and all of these arguments that we're having is the FDA is their number one just nail in the coffin for them is no matter what, if there's a flavor, a kid's going to want it. And that's too much of a risk. So, but we're actually seeing cracks in that response. So, and we have a lot of things as far as the USVA and what we have coming, is those areas that we're going to attack with coming litigation that we're going to be filing. So, and that'll be happening in the next couple of weeks. We're kind of in a limbo process. We're waiting to see how some of these opinions and rulings come out of the 4th Circuit and the 11th Circuit. And that's right, Curtis. So from that point, we want to kind of see which court is really going to be friendly to us. So, and if we find out that one of these two courts is going to be friendly, or let's say both of them, in a perfect world, both of them are friendly, then we're really going to be able to decide which one we want to file, where the strength is. And that's kind of, where we're sitting right now and kind of sitting back and watching. So, but as that clock ticks, we're going to go ahead and file on the basis of what we're learning through the broken PMTA process and how it applies to current law and law that's on the books now. So,
yeah, I remember that it was like was that 2 years ago that everybody was pushing to letting everybody know, hey, don't sign shit. If they come into your shop and they have some paperwork, do not sign it. Get yourself a lawyer. And it's one of the things that I don't understand why a lot of people don't realize that are outside of our community is just listening to you speak and the passion that you have for this industry and the community. And it's about saving lives and more than anything. And I think people lose that message all the time because they automatically think, oh, he's just a business owner. But a lot of these people that are fighting for this industry and this are people that are very passionate, that came in on the ground floor, has had a product that's worked for them, and they had success, and they want to share that knowledge with people. One of the things I started saying today, and it wasn't juice, it wasn't vape, it was tool. I thought, why don't we use this word instead of saying e-liquid, e-juice, e-mod? Why don't we start using the word tool? Because this is a tool that we are using every day to crave the craving for cigarettes. And just like a carpenter needs his hammer, I need this device. I need my flavors. This is my tool. And I'm glad that you come on today and share a little bit of it. And I could see it in your voice, and see it. I can hear it in your voice and see how passionate you are about trying to save this industry and people's lives. And Tim, Give him that hard question. Tim.
I am going to give him the hard
Give it to
question.
me.
So
You
I'm going to have to ask you for a hot.
All right.
Here we go with the drum roll. So I'm gonna have to ask you to step out of the tobacco harm reduction advocate space for a second. Just put yourself back in the consumer space. So you're sitting there in front of the FDA and Congress, and they say, Travis Pinkerton, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna allow you to keep vaping, but you have to concede one thing about vaping. And if you're willing to allow that to go and take that away, we'll give you the rest. And you can save vaping for the rest of the world. What would be the one thing about vaping that you'd be willing to concede and say, all right, if that went away, I'd be fine with that being gone, but everything else can stay?
Hold on.
Disposables.
Disposables.
Yeah.
Disposables.
And for what
Yeah.
reason?
Just the appeal to the youth. They don't
Yeah.
want to carry around. They don't want to carry around this.
Yeah.
So, and trust me, I like disposables. They have their use. They have, even for me as an adult, I like them. I use them. But in the long run, what I've seen the most success with, and what, from 2013 to now, is you give someone an open system, and you give them a good device, and you give them a battery charger. They're good for at least 6 to 8 months with the way the devices are now. So disposables in that case, we're really if we focus on that as the last person that was on, Dana, right? I believe
Dina.
I do side with her, and I do agree with her. And Allie, she busts me up all the time about this, but I do care about the environment, and I do care about I do agree. Like, you look at what the damage a disposable lithium-ion battery does to 25 acres. 25 acres of soil, and they're just flying out the door and going out the window. And I'm here in Austin, dude. I've got a buddy that manages a big tire place, and they do tire repairs. And he'll send me a picture of a disposable in a tire that went through it somehow, and someone threw it out the window and then ran over it. And
fuck yeah, baby.
Yeah. So it is what it is, man. But that's what that's the one thing I'd give up.
Yeah, people don't realize there's some punch behind those little tiny disposable batteries.
Well, it's an interesting answer, because I feel like that's sort of been a long-standing argument about what things, people sort of feel like, what was some of the dagger that may have kind of, stabbed vaping in the heart a little bit. Because for the longest time, it felt like we really didn't have too much challenge because we were kind of off the radar. And I feel like, for me personally, it was some of the convenience stuff that kind of entered the market. And a lot of people early on would have said, well, I wish we could have gotten rid of like the pod systems and all that sort of stuff, like the Stigs and all that kind of wacky stuff that kind of showed up on the market. Because I think real quickly as vapors, we realized that, the kids, when they were getting busted with it, or they were displaying themselves on YouTube or in other social media channels, like you said, it wasn't devices like this. This isn't what they were, lauding about. They were, they had their little Jewel, or they had some, the Sauron, or some little thing that was easy to conceal and something they could keep out of sight and kind of, out of the public eye. But I kind of have to agree with Travis on this one. And the reason why I said I have to ask you to step away from the THR advocate space is, especially somebody who's putting up lines of e-liquid, is a lot of people would have said, well, get rid of 50 milligram nic salts and stuff like that. And then a lot of people argue against that, and they say, no, that's a bad idea. You can't get rid of that. And I get it. Like, theoretically, it's tobacco harm reduction. That 50 milligram might work really well for somebody who's coming off of 2 or 3 packs, and they need more of a punch to give them that relevant experience to succeed. The vast majority of us probably don't need 50. 24, 18, 36 will do us just fine. But now that disposables are obviously a bigger space in the vaping market in general, I feel like disposables, as popular as they've become, I do feel like they're a sore spot.
Yeah.
They don't they. I'm not opining for them to be gone. I'm certainly not. I'm just saying I think I'd have to agree with Travis in the sense now after thinking this question through multiple times that I think if disposables were a goner, I wouldn't cry.
No,
I wouldn't cry.
I wouldn't shed a tear. I would
Well,
not.
right.
I mean,
Well, yeah. But because I mean, a lot us here, the panel here right now on the show, we've had time. We've been around vaping for a long time, so we've seen all different styles and types, and we have other avenues. But you do kind of worry about this is the conversation that ends up being had every time. Is it's like for the accidental quitter. The person that is sort of spontaneous, like, man, I've been smoking for 20 years. Man, what's that Elf bar thing behind the counter? Let me get a couple of them and just try them out. And that's the quicksand about that question is it's like they all will serve a purpose for somebody positively somewhere, and then they will also have a negative connotation that follows with them as well.
I think though, if like they talk about, I thought about this, taking them away from the spontaneous buyer, but I think if we were to get back to the stage where Blue was in the beginning and able to advertise and able to show these products that are out there in commercials and stuff like that for that adult, I think we would get that spontaneous buyer to come to a vape shop. I truly do believe it because I think that's what drew me to Blue is seeing Blue on Phil Donahue, seeing Blue in magazines, seeing Blue on TV commercials and saying to myself, hey, I'm gonna give this a try. And I think if we do take away the disposables and that behind the counter at the convenience store way, I think, and we are able to advertise again and show a product, a tool that is helping millions and millions of people worldwide, I think we would get those people to come into a legitimate vape shop that knows what they're doing, isn't the guy that just is going to say 2150, and send you on your way and not show you how to use it. I think we would draw those spontaneous users back into shops. I really do.
I mean, and also like a great example, and we'll just, I'll go ahead and point it out. And the person that brought this up to me is Allie again. I know what they go through a pretty extensive training, for a 2-week period, where they train all of their employees. They let them know what certain symptoms to look for, what certain, things that customers might be talking about, battery safety, replacing coils. They have their own little training manual for it. And I think that should be something that should be across every vape shop, because there is something that we see quite a bit of. And that's with people going into a convenience store and they're purchasing these high-level nicotine devices that are disposables. And a lot of times folks don't realize it, but they also might be fisting one of these. Yeah. So they're fisting high voltage, high heat milligrams over and over and over and over. And then they're getting a couple hard hits here, and then they develop headaches, and then they start getting an upset stomach. And then you start going through this, these symptoms that they aren't quite aware of that they're having. And it really takes a trained and responsible vape shop employee and vape shop manager to really make sure that their people know exactly how to guide these folks down the right path. And in my opinion, Tim, to kind of follow back with what you were saying is the disposables, you walk in, what are these 2 Elf bars, whatever, whoever said this, behind the counter, give those to me. That there is low risk, low investment. They can grab that. They can try, what, it doesn't work, and they throw it in the trash.
Sure.
But the difference is whenever they have to go in and they buy a device, they buy a tank, they buy coils, they buy batteries, they buy a couple of bottles of juice. Now they're invested. So this isn't going to be something that they're going to use once or twice, not like it and throw it away because it only cost them $30 or $40, right? So by giving them a high quality device, you're setting them up for success. You're allowing growth within that device. And it really takes responsible vape shop owners, employees, teams, the whole 9 yards to really put that dynamic together to make their business successful in transitioning folks from analog to digital. It's pretty simple. So
Real quick before we introduce Paul to everybody knows Paul, but we have to do his
Man needs
intro.
no introduction at this point.
I want Tim. I think Nick came in a little late, so explain to Nick why we're talking about this. It's a question that Tim has asked Travis, and it's our big question. And Tim, go ahead and
Shall I explain it to Mr. Orlando?
So he understands that we're not hating.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Nick. Yeah. Don't think you walked into the dark side. This is not the Death Star. We're not downing vaping. No. Basically, whenever we do the story time with people and they tell their vaping story, and we ask the battery of questions, one of the questions that I ask in general, just to get a pulse on things and where people's heads are at, is to ask them to step out of the THR advocate space and go back to the consumer space. They're just the average vapor who's wanting vaping to stick around, and they sit in front of the FDA and Congress at a hearing, and the powers that be say, "Hey, look, we're going to cut you a deal. We're going to ask you to go ahead and make a choice today on one thing about vaping that you'd be willing to concede, and then we'll let you just keep everything else." Yeah. So meaning what one thing would you be willing to get rid of and make it go away, and you could still have everything else at your fingertips? Yeah. And it's not about ignoring the THR component of it, because everything in the vaping world has a purpose and a place and a reason to exist for that particular person. And I'm even including into that some of the salacious kind of stuff, like a friggin' DeWalt box with 318 650s in it. Somebody, ultimately they're not, as long as they're not harming themselves and other people around them, then hey, if it's your hobby thing to see how extreme you can go, well then fine, fucking have at it. But the point is to say, like, what one thing could you throw away today and you could still have the lot? What would it be? And Travis picked disposables. If you could get rid of the allure and the waste component of disposables, that would be satisfactory to still have your RTAs, your RDAs, your sub tanks, your throwaway coils, your mesh tanks, your all that that was really the question. So it's not in any way, shape, or form intended to try to discount any part of THR in the vaping space. It's an unrealistic question, but sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat and I go, man, I wish that's all it really was. I wish that's what it was really come down to. It's a fun question.
Paul, welcome, Paul. What happened? Monsoon season over there? What happened?
No. I lost one of my very good friends.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Paul. Sorry. Now I feel like shit. All right. Welcome, Paul. Do you have any questions for Travis? And then we'll start off with you, buddy.
I'm sitting here listening, taking it all in, and I agree with what you're saying, Travis. If we could do certain things and educate more at the ground level, life would be a whole lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that we will and do intend for the USVA to start rolling out. I would say we're probably 3 to 4 months away from creating basically just a certificate program where, we're taking the data that's directly from the FDA, kind of, taking that, training people on that data on exactly what they say to do, and then to turn around and feather in additional areas of that. And then at the end of it, someone can walk away and say, hey, I know, I know what to look for here, and I know how to best set this consumer on a path for success. So, hands down, it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly. Like why isn't this already been done? Yeah. So, and if it has, I'd love for someone to let me know, like where that is out there. So
it's a backdoor deal.
Yeah. So, Texas, believe it or not, Texas actually has through the comptroller where you can become a tobacco certifier, a tobacco resale certifier. So what I did is I actually filled out the paperwork and sent it for the USVA. And there's 3 of us for the USVA here in Texas. People can pay $50 for a class. We go through the entire process of what Texas considers age verification for an age restricted product and what falls into those those categories. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty straightforward. You walk out of there at the end of the day knowing, hey, I know what a fake ID looks like.
Yeah.
And then 2, I know that hemp isn't considered tobacco, so I don't have to do 21 on hemp, or on hemp cigarettes or any type of plant fiber. But if it's a pre-rolled cigarette, then you obviously have to do 21. And whenever it comes to other glass and hardware and things along those lines, you fall back to the 18 category or the 21 category. So there is a lot of roads to navigate, and I can just only imagine how that is for each state. You know what I mean? So, and that's really something, all these components, Paul, that really have to be put together and thought out. And it's going to take people with a lot more time than I have to put that together. So, and make that happen.
So the FDA and all of these governmental bodies, they kind of concoct or throw together these sort of like guidelines for policies that are supposed to be followed. Do you get any sort of, being that you've been working with attorneys and kind of fighting this fight, have you gotten any vibe from them that they sense an honesty in the vaping business community, that that the businesses aren't really trying to cause any harm to the children? Like, we're not trying to feed it downwards and put it in the hands of kids, because that tends to be their soapbox argument. Like, oh, well, the kids, the kids are going to get it and they're going to try it and they're going to get hooked on nicotine and all this other stuff. And then you've got this THR business, get people to quit smoking side of it, and a lot of business owners and e-liquid manufacturers and stuff like that. Do they sense any honesty coming from you? Like, hey, look, man, we're not trying to screw with the kids. We're just trying to save people's lives here.
Yeah. So, there's 2 sides to that. You have a large majority that are good actors, that we're going to say good actors, bad actors. So we have a large majority of business owners that are responsible business owners that want to follow procedure and that are probably, 5 times more thorough in age verification than a convenience store is. And the only administration, I guess we could say under a head of a particular administration over the FDA, that was Scott Gottlieb. Scott Gottlieb, at first, I really wasn't a fan of him, but I started to notice that over time, he was the one that was really standing up for the small businesses, and even said on many, many occasions that vape shop owners, that they go above and beyond to ensure and do age verification because they understand what's most at risk. So these are his own words. And he even was considering, and before he resigned, what he took in and threw down on the White House desk for his suggestion for the industry at the beginning of the, September 11th vape apocalypse, all that good stuff, where Trump came out and started talking about it. Whenever he walked in and threw down his proposal, what was in that proposal is to remove vape products out of convenience stores. Yeah. Why? Because when you look at the statistics and you start reading it through, what you start finding is that convenience stores are the largest violators of underage sales. So, and really and truly, Tim, what we're getting down to here is, what we're seeing through administrations is we had one guy that really seen the benefit of this and put his neck out there on the line. And in my opinion, he got ran out the door. And as he got ran out the door, he kicked over the water cooler and said, well, we're gonna pull back that 2022 deadline for your PMTA, and it's now 2021. And then from that point, that's where Ned Sharpless, a lot of folks don't know this, but Ned Sharpless is the one that we should all be hating right now because it was under his temporary appointment of FDA director It was whenever he went and testified to Congress and openly admitted that they were planning to reset the market, meaning wipe it clean and reset it. And then at that point, he then goes in and it goes directly into the APA lawsuit and the FDA and through Judge Grimm. And then that's whenever he's also the one that said, well, we can't do 90 days, but we can do 10 months. So he's the one. And at that time that he said this, a lot of folks don't understand this. At the time that he said this, he was 14 days, if I remember correctly, 14 days over the allotted time to be an acting director of any administration. So technically speaking, what he did and how all of this went out and how it all went down, if we could have sued fast enough, looked into it hard enough and stopped it, we could have maybe had some reversal there. But, you know, that's why one of the biggest lessons that I've learned through all of this, Tim, is you have to have, you know, an attorney and a law firm and maybe a couple of them that are gunslingers. There are Wild West guys. They're the ones that have to see that shot. And if it's a risky one, you have to be able to take the chances to take that shot. And, you know, right now we don't have time for anything else. So every shot we take, it has to be a meaningful one. And this next one that we're getting close to is it's a resetting and forcing the FDA to not necessarily say that we're going to side one way or the other. We're going to force them to follow policy that is on the books as it sets. Right. So, and especially when it comes to the PMTA process itself. And that's exactly what we're going to be arguing is the PMTA process and the regulatory pathways that they have to follow.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, given that they moved the goalpost once.
Yeah, they're moving it 5 yards back.
Yeah.
Man, you know, again, guys, our first lawsuit, Article 1, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution is the Non-Delegation Doctrine, and it essentially states that all legislative responsibilities and powers lie within the executive branches in Congress, right? And that they cannot delegate their authority to a agency, administration, or a private entity.
Yeah.
2009, TCA, Congress delegated their authority and their responsibility to the FDA to regulate tobacco products.
Yeah.
That is a constitutional violation every which way you read it. It's black letter. You can't argue. You can't go backwards with it, right? But it's congressional law.
Yeah.
So now they signed it. It's law.
Yeah.
So
that was a way to keep their fingers clean and keep the spotlight on the FDA and away from them and still be able to force their authority on the FDA to do as they please. So, yeah, that's exactly what that whole process was. Yeah. I got to throw out a fun question for you, and you can't name your line. You can't name your line here. All right. We do this to everybody.
No nepotism.
Yeah. We do this to everybody that comes in. What is your favorite flavor that's out there right now that doesn't belong to you?
Oh, man.
Oh, man. It's okay. Nobody's watching. No, I'm kidding.
I would have to say that it would probably, and I'm, you know, again, I'm bad. I'm probably going to say it's a disposable. So it's aside from my own stuff, the next flavor, and I'm on a banana kick right now. Oh, yeah. I was watching y'all's show the other day or the last week or something like that. And I think Paul was talking about all the different types of banana and Nick was on. Yeah. And after that point, dude, I just got on this banana kick and now I can't kick it. So, yeah, banana, it's just banana ice disposable, man. Like I'm guilty. You know, I'm totally guilty.
We were talking about bananas. I did. Yeah. I didn't realize there were so many of them. And then Paul enlightened me that there's even more than I thought there were. I thought there was like 3, you know, a candy one, a ripe banana, and a regular banana. But Paul's like, oh, fuck no. There's Paul, how many bananas are there out there?
I can think of 6 off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's quite a few out there.
I'm not going to answer that question again because it's going to get someone else into a banana trouble.
I got stuck on banana custard for a good like 8 months. I could not stop vaping a banana custard, and it didn't even matter who made it. It was just like if they didn't have the one I was vaping or the bottle ran out and I was at the shop, I goes, that banana custard, yeah, all right, put it in the bag, put it in the bag. Banana's
Yeah.
one of those. We all still. I mean, I still kind of. I don't vape cereals all the time, but I catch myself every now and then jumping back to a cereal vape, and it's usually Fruit Loops for me for some reason. And I'm right back to Fruit Loops, and it'll last about a week. It'll last about a
Mhm.
week.
Yeah.
And we've got the adjudicator here. Pippa is counting her banana concentrates. Here we go. The big count
All right.
is on.
Yeah.
Well,
It's gonna be
I'll tell you.
scary
I'll tell you
because
one.
I've got.
Go ahead.
I think I've got 28 here at the moment.
28?
Or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, bananas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's every freaking banana in the world there. If it, it's a, but that's what makes
Are like
this
three
whole
of them
thing-
the same thing, but like extra normal and light or some shit like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
They even got one that's called green banana. So if you know what the green banana tastes like, that's
Yeah.
what it tastes like.
Yeah. Eesh.
It's great, and that's what makes this whole thing such an amazing industry and product. I mean, the choices that we have, and introducing all these different flavors, and having the ability to switch flavors, I think, and dabble in rebuildables, and spending an hour and a half on a website looking for a fucking mod, and
Yeah.
then realizing you have 6 carts full on 8 different sites, that have something in there waiting because you're not sure. I mean, that's the thing that helped me, and then when I got into rebuildables, I remember just sitting there at night, and I always tell this story, and, my hardest part of controlling my habit was at night. For me, late at night, I mean, that's when I felt like I really needed that cigarette. And getting introduced to building and making my own coils, I would sit there and just make coils and throw them in a mason jar. I would make another one, throw it in a mason jar. And I think with all that, with the flavors and the devices and the shopping sprees and all the different flavors, I think that's part of all that together in a whole has kept me from grabbing another cigarette for almost 11 years now. So, and I just don't understand why people don't understand that, but they can understand why and I'm not going to shit on people. Don't get all mad at me. I don't understand why they think the heroin guy needs the clean needle, but I don't need this,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't understand that whole process. It's an addiction. Nicotine and cigarettes have been, what is it? Number one? Is it still number one or number two right in there? Nicotine as the most addictive stuff, or is it caffeine still? I think it's still caffeine.
I don't know those current numbers,
I'm
but
not
yeah, it's
sure
going to
on
be in
this
the
one.
top 3 no matter what.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
in the top 3.
legal addictions. So
Yeah.
mean, if we classify pharmaceuticals, I think that would probably take number 1.
Yeah,
Just in
opiates would
general.
be.
Yeah, just number 1 because we have the
Yeah.
legal drug dealers pushing those.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this raises an interesting question because we can look at all kinds of legal addictions, and even logic would sit there and tell the average person, look from the outside looking in, if you had to put things like sugar on the table, you had to put caffeine on the table, you put nicotine on the table, and you put alcohol on the table. Okay, so all those things are readily accessible by people of all different ages, and it just makes no sense to me that someone can't do some general logic and say, if I had to put nicotine in this hand and alcohol in this hand, how any one person could sit there and elevate nicotine above something like alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking drinking. I drink. Sorry. Okay, I do. But I'm just saying, if you think about the ramifications of smoking, all right. I mean, 4,000 some chemicals in a cigarette. We know that it inevitably, in a lot of people, is going to cause certain death. And then alcohol, which can be traumatizing. I mean, when you see people become alcoholics and stuff like that,
Sclerosis.
how anyone could even throw nicotine into that space and try to make it seem worse than those two. And I don't. Maybe someone can talk about that. Why do they elevate nicotine so much?
So here's the reason, and this is this is a study that you could find, through the Royal College of Physicians. This is the conclusion that they came to. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the same conclusion that the FDA has come to. And it is that nicotine itself is not the issue. It is the method that you get that nicotine. It's the delivery method. So it's the combustion of smoke and the inhalation of smoke, the lack of oxygen in the bloodstream, and then the tar and everything that comes along with getting that nicotine. And we do know, obviously, we know now that, and I've known for a long time that nicotine, the cigarette companies, big tobacco, they spray the tobacco leaf with the same type of freebase nicotine extract that we currently use for e-liquid. So to make them stronger. So, it's one of these things. It's the delivery of, it's how you get to what you're seeking. And I think one of the ways that we can really reduce a lot of that and separate these two, and it's something that I've been saying for a long time. And Bill Wilkstorm out of Mississippi, he's the president of the Mississippi Vape Association there in Mississippi. They did a lot of good stuff there, man. They actually had some legislation that was pushed through at the state level, had success. It's been signed into law. And one of the things that he and I have had in discussion back and forth quite a bit, and this is something that you can look through everywhere. Tell me what state and what federal agency has defined what e-liquid is.
Yeah.
So we have a definition of what an alcoholic beverage is. We have a definition of what a cigarette is. Okay. When they say e-liquid, that's just wide open currently. It can be a variety of things. They can say we can have formaldehyde in there. They can say all of this stuff. So one of the angles that I think really needs to push, as far as, setting a standard and classifying and declassifying out of something, which would be identifying and defining exactly what e-liquid is. And I think in the simplest terms, it is vegetable glycerin, propylene glycol, water-soluble food-based flavorings, and a nicotine that we can base it. And then if we wanted to even get fancier, we could address a number of issues and say we have to cap certain nicotine levels for certain types of nicotine. So, and it's just common sense. And it's one of these things that he and I've discussed. We've spitballed it around, and we even named it and called it the KISS Act, keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
And really, because then at that point, if we define what it is, it's in the simplest terms, then there is no more of this, wide snowball debate that is just continuously going among the media, among these, fly by night, drive-bys that we get constantly.
Bloggers.
Yeah. And just like Paul said, chemistry, it's very, very, very basic chemistry at the root of it all. And identifying what it is, that way, if we come across something that is not what then this is not e-liquid, and this is why.
Well, you think that was the big push in 2012, getting it association with tobacco. That was their goal, is, and we had to take the less of two evils back then and decide, do we take this or do we take that? And we went with that instead. And I think we're paying the price now for that, because we kind of put it in that loop, in that category as a tobacco product, when we should have been fighting more tobacco in 2012.
Well, here's the reality, and this is what I a question that I asked and this is something Nick and I have actually talked about, Nick Orlando. You look at all of the regulation that's been enforced upon this industry, and can you guys name one of them that passed on its own merit through the normal procedures? None. The reason why is because when they don't get what they want and they can't get it through, it gets packed into a budget. Right. It gets packed into something else that nobody has time to read. And that is exactly how the synthetic nicotine PMTA came along. 2015, 12:03 midnight, December 15th, 2015. The $1.6 trillion omnibus spending bill. That is when the FDA wrote in last minute at 12:03 and were given the authority to regulate and create the deeming rule, which they rolled out and released on 5/10/2016. And and then the Nicotine Enhancement Act, as far as the synthetic PMTA, I think is what Nick is referring to there. So all of that stuff is packed in. And one of the things that, we just by the skin of our teeth just barely missed. I don't know if Allie talked about this or if you have guys talked about this. She was part of it. She was in it. So one of these things is they tried to pack in a full recall and restricting the oversight and the discretion that the FDA currently has by a senator out of California that packed in a amendment that was non-germane to the National Defense Authorization Act.
Yeah, this was recent. This was extremely recent. And Nick and I briefly discussed it before, like during a show one time. Yeah. And luckily that amendment got yanked.
Yeah, 33 or 333.
Yeah, but it sounded very ominous and scary. But we didn't want to talk about it that night because it was still too new and fresh and green, and we didn't want to raise any panic levels, throughout the vaping community. So luckily, less than 24 hours later, it was gone. So and we were extremely lucky. We had 2 people in our corner that were in the cannabis, galaxy universe, and they're the ones that kind of tipped us off to it and let us know, hey, this just came through, do you know anything about it? And through, I think, all of us kind of huddling together, putting our heads together, we just kind of said, we got to act, because if this goes through, just on the face of it, guys, National Defense Authorization Act, that is the fiscal defense budget for 2023 that goes into effect October 1st, 2022. You know what I mean? So that would just be the end of the industry, and there's nothing we could do, because no fighting it, no nothing, because it's Congress, it's done. So I don't know. For me personally, I feel like, they always say, like, when we want to take on this particular fight, like, for example, right, a good example would be like, let's not go after the WHO necessarily, just them in general. Like, if you want to attack any one particular thing, go after the FTC or FCTC, because they're the ones that really sort of regulate and create the tobacco policy, which ends up getting trickled down, and then other countries and other divisions follow those particular rules and laws. So I feel like, and I'm not saying, because this really isn't about vaping in totality, but I feel like that's sort of a seedy way to get things through and passed into law, is when they build this shit in like fucking pork all the time, and they bury it like on the last fucking page, and I feel like it would be really nice if someone would, from either side of the aisle, it could be, because it impacts both sides, right? They should make it a congressional law that things can't be passed as like bundled deals. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna say we need $2.5 bajillion dollars to be sent off to fucking Ukraine, to fight the war, you can't have a bill that everybody, and even if 100% of Congress wanted to vote yes on this particular bill, you can't have this negotiational bullshit that just gets thrown in as pork to say, okay, well, I'll go ahead and vote yes on that, but you got to let me have that in that bill too, when they really don't have any correlation to each other. And I feel like as a standard federal guideline, if you could turn the tide on that and stop a lot of the stuff that gets passed as bundle deals, a lot of these things, like these weird amendments or things that are relevant to the PACT Act, where people could have a legitimate argument in Congress about the future of our lives, right? Because they work for us, but they're the ones that pass the law. Yank that out and say, okay, well, let's put this vaping specific thing on the table. Is it really going to get through now? Maybe not.
No.
Maybe not. No. And I don't, and if so, I guess my point is if you went after that particular kind of under the cover kind of procedure or process that they're allowed to undertake, and you could eradicate that, you might end up getting some things stopped that, you know, are just sort of asinine and stupid, because too many things get through in the middle of the night on page
Yep.
752 clause 4. You know, it's like, fuck, we're fucked, because the thing at the front is the thing everybody wants, you know.
Yeah, right. Well,
Well,
Como did it. You know, Como,
Yeah.
and then remember the big story, which we thought was hilarious many years ago, was the Florida one with the drilling and having that that vaping anti-vaping article, whatever you want to call it, in the back pages of them saying, well, we want to stop offshore drilling. Well, of course, everybody wants to stop offshore drilling, but what does vaping have to do with offshore drilling? And why is vaping part of this stupid bill? It's a sneaky process.
It really is, and what it really boils down to is there's the dependency of our government is so large. Like, there's so many industries, massive industries that we're subsidizing in some way, that that in my opinion they just don't have enough time. And what we've created now, and this is something that Jared and I have talked. Jared and I, the principal attorney for Navarre Law, have talked about, you know, on multiple occasions, is right now the amount of laws that are on the books and the amount of things that you can get charged for is, we can't quantify it. We don't know. It is that large. It is that big that we don't know exactly how many laws there actually are.
Right.
And when you just look at laws, okay, these are just laws that you and I, normal people, can get charged with, right?
Yeah.
And then you turn around and you look at, you know, the dependency upon these giant, you know, industries that we subsidize because of a political agenda that you and I, none of us really might have ever agreed on or even knew about, is there. And what it really boils down to is it's the committees. It is the people that are introducing these committees that come together, and then, you know, they have subjects that are particular to that committee, and then they bring it in. But these committee members, they also have their own agendas, and some of these might be sitting on a board, they might be sitting at the head somewhere, and then they're going to fish it on in. And that's where the rules committee, where these rules of the committees really come into play. But again, something that we aren't privy to is all these fuckers can get together and they can agree to suspend the rules. And whenever you suspend the rules, it doesn't fucking matter what it's about, what it has, if it has to do with the military base, if it has to do with, you know, offshore drilling or not. So all they have to do is suspend the rules. So in my opinion, we would really need something to burn it down. Hey, hold on.
Easy.
Those ain't fighting words.
We should slowly deconstruct what is there until there's really not a lot left, and rebuild new with a new set of rules, and or just follow the old rules that we have in place and just, you know. It's one of those things that our country, the number one founding that it is on, is the rule of law. Yeah. And what do you do when there's unlimited laws? Then you rule, like, you know, what are we doing? Like, we're all just breaking the law now. You know, like,
it's a funny story I had with my cousin in Italy many years ago, and I was just joking. You know how we are. We're proud Americans, you know, and I'm in a foreign country, and I look at my cousin and I just start laughing, and I say, "Well, I live in America, and I have freedom." And he looked at me, and with just a couple words, he goes, "You have more laws and regulations than any other country in the world. How are you free?" And I just shut up. I sat back. I just shut up.
It's the idea. Yeah, it's the idea of
freedom. Yeah, the
idea of freedom. Exactly. Your freedom ends at the moment that you wake up in reality.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're bound, and ultimately, at the end of the day, your true identity is all in capital letters and associated with a number. So, what are you really? You know,
Social Security number.
Exactly. You're a dependency of debt. So they know automatically, because of your existence, that they're going to make money off of you. So, but no, man, and that's truly in a very simple way, you know, how vaping should really be looked at, and how all of this should be looked at is, how can the government really see us for what's best for us, when all we are to them is a capitalized name and a social security number.
Yeah.
They literally don't care. They're looking at
Don't
the
forget a
best
consumer.
interest.
A consumer.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a consumer of things that generate tax revenue.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the reality of it. Taxation is theft, and I'll be honest, guys, I would be down to putting forward a common sense federal tax. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You start taxing, 5 cents for every 5 milligrams.
Sure.
So you then at those, and you leave disposables alone.
Leave them
Yeah.
alone. Leave everything
Leave them alone at that point. You know why? Because the teens won't be able to afford them.
Yeah.
Well, right. And John and I have talked about this multiple times. We've kind of brought it up, and it's like, okay, I get that we live in a different world than when we were little kids and stuff like that, but I can't even remember going back to being a kid, like in my teens when I started smoking, and ever remember having enough fucking allowance money or money that I pulled in from any shit job that I might have had when I was 16 or 17 years old to substantiate any sort of addictive habit. Right? I mean, it either had to snatch it out of Dad's cabinet, you know, because he was paying the bills at the time. But we talked about this like with the kids and the Juul and all that stuff, you know, before disposables had kind of exploded and all that, and the pod systems were readily available. And it's like, where the hell are little kids coming up with the funds to go ahead and substantiate a Juul habit? When you think about, when you would read reports and it would say that these kids were burning through 2 pods a day.
Yeah.
Okay, 4 pods come in a pack, and we were doing the math, and we're like, that's like $14 to $16 for a 4-pack of pods, and they're burning 2 in a day. That means in 2 days they're done with a 4-pack of pods, and then they're right back at the store buying another $16 pack of pods. You do that, and you start breaking the math down, and it's like, what allowance are you getting? Like, what are you basically doing? Like, washing the roof with a fucking toothbrush? Where's, you know?
Dude, my kids, I'll tell you right now, my kids are creative as hell, man. I had no idea. They get their little allowance from me, right? It's just direct deposit into a little card, you know?
Yeah.
And they get their little allowance. Well, my 13-year-old, she went on Amazon and bought a bunch of stickers, right? And then she bought like a shitload of these stickers, like 100 for $10 or something.
Yeah.
Then she goes to school and she starts selling the stickers for 50 cents a sticker.
I like your kid. I like
Dude,
your kid.
She's
Capitalism.
savage. And yeah, and then the next thing you know, she's like, "Oh, I want these Tyler the Creator red Converse shoes," and I'm like, "They're $250." She's like, "I have 205." I'm like, "Wait,
You're like, what
wait, how did this happen?"
Yeah.
So yeah, no, dude, that kids are creative these days,
yeah.
and you know, getting money is a lot easier than what it used to be for us. You know,
They're all
and as
hustling.
far as
I start thinking about how many lawns I had to mow to get to
Bro, dude, I'm right there with you. Walking on the shady side of the street, depending on what time of the day. You know?
Yeah.
Freaking push mower with a weed eater and 2 gas cans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I did that for a catcher's mitt whenever I was 12, dude, and that was a lot of work for $150 catcher's mitt.
Sure.
And now in this day, dude, what is $250? You know, what is like really and truly, kids can come across this stuff, and you where the real difference is that $14 to $20 pod, you know, a couple times a day. If you tax it at 5 cents a mil, and that 50 or a milligram, you know, 5 cents for every 5 milligrams, and that 50 milligram, you start doing the math on that, dude. You know, that pod is going to be something that a teen really can't afford anymore.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think it's not going to go down that road as well.
And that's a bit of an unfortunate side of things too, because, you know, in a lot of ways too, it kind of ends up hurting.
Oops, sorry. That was my bad.
It ends up hurting the adult market in some ways, because when you think about vaping in the sense that it is THR and it's a way to get people away from cigarettes, you know, I find that, you know, that path kind of puts vaping on the trajectory to make it more expensive than smoking. And then when people are forced with a choice at the counter, the accidental quitter, the convenience store shopper, you know, they walk in and they go, okay, so a pack of smokes is only $4.78. Well, I'm talking Georgia money down here, folks. So don't. I don't live in New York. I don't live in New York where it's $10 a pack and shit like that. So if I sound like I come from 80 years ago when, a nickel get you a Snickers and a Pepsi at the corner store.
God.
I'm a sound like that, but I'm just saying, you look at the price of a pack of cigarettes or even a carton of cigarettes for that matter,
Yeah.
and then you start doing the math of what you're getting into with vaping and stuff like that. And if you start taxing on taxing, because you have state and federal tax now at this point, people are going to go, well, shit, I'm just going to buy the cigarettes because they're a lot cheaper. But I agree with you, Travis, in the sense that I think from the vaping community, advocates and consumers combined, that we're all about coming up with some kind of sensible regulation that makes it fair for everybody. If you can move it to a position where it becomes effectively unattainable for kids by virtue of cost, but still leave it affordable for adults, then you
and
may.
This is, and this is exactly something that has been thought through. And back to Bill Wilkstorm and what we were talking about earlier, and the success that they had with the KISS Act and all this good stuff is really capping the nicotine level, but also taxing it at the same time. So, and with that thought process, and again, this is just an idea. Okay, just an idea. It's always evolving. There's nothing on paper just yet, but it was an idea, and within that idea, what we had discussed is making it to where for open systems, okay, for your 60 ml bottle of juice, that's 3 milligrams. There's no tax,
right?
So there wouldn't be a tax that would take place until you reach 12 milligrams, and then that tax on 12 milligrams might be 12 cents.
Yeah.
So 12 cents onto a 120 bottle of juice. That's 12 milligrams. And then you look at the devices that we have today, and even in the transition of someone, they might go to a disposable. They might need that with a cigarette for that draw, that effect. And they get to a point to where there are less cigarettes and they're now at a disposable. Now it's time to go to a device for success.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there is a process there. And that is, again, you're taxing the youth appeal, in my opinion. And it's something, the reason why it's fresh for me is that was something that we fought this year here in Texas, as they were trying to come in and tax the total volume of juice and not the nicotine level. And here in Texas, we have tax brackets and we have tax levels for types of alcohol, for the proof of the alcohol.
Sure.
So beer and wine coolers are at a different tax bracket than a bottle of Everclear. So, and why would that be any different for nicotine that's based on a percentage or a milligram level?
Right.
So that's what we pushed for. We put an action team together. We went and blew up the freaking the state capitol. Well, we lobbied heavily with a big presence. I won't use that word, and then use the state capitol next. So because we are on the interwebs,
Right?
So. But we did a great job. We got it stopped. We got it pulled, and it was done. And luckily here in Texas, we only have a legislative session every 2 years. So we kind of set and hold in place, and we get a good long sight, but then it's a kamikaze. It's like,
Fast
throwing,
and Furious.
Yeah, dude, throwing kibble into a catfish pond, so you really got to keep up with it. So whenever that time comes around.
And I think that brings up a fair point too, is I think that, when you talk about, the kids and their involvement in all of this, and you sit there and people want to focus on flavors being the one catalyst to their allure to vaping in general, I feel like it's beyond that. I feel like it goes deeper than that. I feel like once kids realize that they're getting their hands on something that could, in theory, kind of get them fucked up a little bit, that seems to be more of the fish hook than it's just mango or cotton candy. I think that's the easy argument to have, to say that opens the door to make them want it. But I guarantee you, if some little kid, all he could ever get his hands on were like 3 and 6 milligram e-liquid at the most general spots where they would be able to obtain it, because vape shops, they're not going to get very far. They're going to get ID'd the moment they walk in the door, and no little 12-year-old's going to take that shot. But my point is that, and I tell this story too. I'm flipped on. It's probably still on YouTube now. They'll take down Matt from Suck My Mods videos, but they won't take down this dumb video of this kid basically giving a tutorial on how to get the biggest head rush from a Juul. Right. Like 5 different ways. And I'm like, and that's what I see, and I don't understand how legislators can't see that too. It's like, yeah, okay, flavors, schmavers, okay, sure, yeah, that might be something to attract them, but you do understand that these kids are getting fucked up on this thing. They're putting 6 joules in a styrofoam cup and huffing on it to get the biggest head rush. I think if those higher nicotine levels were harder to obtain through the convenience store path and all they could get was lower nicotine levels, I think the fad wears off. I think the trend and the fad and the excitement about vaping is gone because there's just nothing they can do to get that much of a head rush on lower nicotine content levels.
Let's be, I'm a realist for the most part, and realistic, and I'm not going to lie, guys. Hands down, kids are going to do what kids are going to do.
Yep.
We were all 15. We were all 16. We were all 17. We were all underage, and we did whatever we could and however we could get our hands on it because we couldn't. We weren't permitted to. So that was the generalized appeal. Now, let's be realistic. Kids these days, they can get these devices. They can consume nicotine. They can get that into their system. They can get whatever effect they're seeking from it. And nobody can really know, especially a parent, because you're not going through this experience that we all know about, which is, I can smell you. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then again, just this not being stupid here, man, and not being naive and just being realistic. Like, it's 94% safer, 95% safer, 96% safer. I mean, let's put it on a table. Like you said, Tim, put it on a table, walk out of the room. If your kid's going to do it and they're going to do it regardless, I'm not going to sit here and say that I wouldn't want them to make the decision of the safest and healthiest alternative that there is.
Yeah. Okay? That's a realistic point of view.
That's a realistic point of view. Okay. Yeah. Bottom line. But where it comes down to is parenting at the end of the day. I'm a parent. Everybody here, the majority of the people that vape, the reason why we started vaping, the majority of the reason is either you want to be around longer for your kids or you want to create a healthier, safer environment for your kids, right? Yeah. So, and through all of this processes, even with my kids, they've of course, through peer pressure, have showed interest in it, and it's very easy, very simple, and very direct with them and saying, look, you're not old enough. You get hit, it falls on me, and then it's not going to fall on me again. And this is where we are. So you're not going to do it because you're not old enough, and that's the law. And if you go around that, you're going to get in trouble for it, bottom line, you know? And I'm not going to take sides. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to do nothing. You're going to get in trouble. And you just put it back on them because that's the realistic thing. Do I believe that a kid should, have their life marked for the, be marked for the rest of their life for having tobacco-based products or a nicotine product or anything along these lines? No. But I do think that, overall, if it happens with a kid and their parents are involved, those parents are going to get in and parent and stop it and do everything that they can to correct course with their kid. Yeah. And if that doesn't happen and you don't have control over parenting your child and your child wants to go out and be a hellion and you're not doing anything about it, well, guess what? If there's legislation and if there's something in place that creates a structure for violation of these products, and it says, hey, if you're underage and you get, you get pulled over, arrested, whatever, and this is had and it's pursued, you got to do, community service. Well, what does that mean? That means the parent has to get involved, take the kid to court, community service has to go through. You have to take the kid to community service. You have to continue doing all of this stuff. And if the kid does it again, then the kid gets in trouble. But the parent also has to go and do community service as well. Yeah. Because it's one of those things, man. You start putting the burden back on the parent instead of the parent just throwing their hands up and saying, I can't control them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's not an option. Yeah, that's not an option in my house.
Yeah, that happened to me with my son, yelling at him to put his helmet on when that law passed here in California. I said, son, you got to have a helmet on. Oh, Dad, come on. No, you need to have a helmet on. And he got that ticket 1 block from the house. Now I had to go to traffic school with him and sit for 2.5 hours of traffic school because he didn't wear his helmet, and it cost me $75. And what did he get out of the class? Yeah. He goes, I got a free water bottle out of it, Dad. I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. That's not the lesson you should have learned from this mistake. It's not.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
We
That's
got
not
a
how this
couple
works.
minutes here. So,
Yeah,
but I
Go ahead, John.
cannot end this show and not ask you, are you a Dallas Cowboys fan?
So I'm because I am in Texas, and
All
it
right.
is the main team, and it's pretty much the only team. And as I tell everybody, I watch them lose no matter what.
All right.
So I watch them lose no matter what, man. No matter how good they look at the start, they always lose. It's just the
Yeah.
reality.
They
So,
find
but
a
I'm
way.
loyal. I stick
All right,
with them.
that's
But you must have that tug of war, right? I mean, you got to go. You got to fall in alliance with either Houston or Dallas, right? I mean,
No,
Yeah.
man, it's just
No.
Dallas and
No,
this.
Yeah.
Dallas.
For like
Well,
the
I-
30th year or something like that, you know?
I empathize with that because I grew up a Washington fan all my life. I grew up in the D.C. area, so I think I've been doing that since like 1991.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been able to change that trend, so
Yeah.
hard for me to watch anymore. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah.
Right on.
Well, hey,
cool.
Travis, I want to thank you for jumping
Yeah.
in, sharing your story. You are welcome back anytime you have any. If you're available, let Allison know. I'm sure she'll hit you up to come back on the show. We enjoyed having you here. I hope everybody kind of liked the stories. It's not that scary, guys. I know, going live and being in front of everybody and speaking and sharing your story, it's a little scary. Like I said, I still get the butterflies myself, and I've been doing this for almost 4 years now. And I still get butterflies. So I hope what you saw today gives you a little bit of courage to come on, because we love to do this at least twice a week or twice a month on the show and get those stories out there. And hopefully somebody that isn't a vapor stumbles upon the channel and watches a video and gets a better understanding of what we're going through and why we're doing what we're doing. So thank you, Timmy. Thank you, Paul. You guys have anything you want to say before we go? Timmy?
Vape on and vape strong.
All right. Paul.
Yeah.
Paul's cold. Paul had a sweater on last week. This week he's got his jacket on. It had to be colder in Australia today.
He looks frozen.
He is so cold that Paul is frozen.
He's now frozen in place. That's true. There he goes.
Just like now, it got so cold, the internet went out in Australia.
Yeah.
Hey, Travis, we appreciate you
man.
jumping
Thank
in.
you, man.
And like
It
I
was
said,
great meeting you.
Anytime,
You too.
anytime you want to be part of the show, just let us know, and
Roger.
you can
Will
jump
do.
in.
Right-
Again,
right
everybody.
on, man.
Yeah, we'll see everybody next week, and peace out. Have a great week, rest of your week.
All right. I'm in.
Wrong one.